as promised, we're going to take you through what we're using for bait this year. It's been an incredible season. Our baits are getting pounded on right now. We're going through a ton of bait, and I'm starting to get worried that we're getting low on some bait. So we ended up doing a big mixture of my mix that I do, which is, this is sunflowers, oats, and corn, cracked corn. And what I do with that is I put a couple scoops of each, and then what I'll do is I'll take some, maple syrup, some definitely cheap stuff, or I'll use the liquid molasses and just mix that in together and use an old boat oar to do it. But that stuff has been working really well. We're noticing a ton of birds, ravens on the bait with the cameras, kind of driving us nuts, but that's been excellent. We're going to deep dive down into stuff that we bought from like Wildwood. This cookie dough trail mix has been really good. We're on our last barrel of that. Another thing is we're using, since we do have some acorns, one thing that we're noticing is that we're keeping those bears on these baits by loading them with proteins. When I say loading them with proteins, we're putting in another kind of trail mix in. This is peanuts mixed with dried cranberries. The bears are absolutely loving this one the most. It's got a little bit of sweets in it, some M&Ms, but mostly it's just proteins with that dried fruits. That's been a huge key, is trying to keep a lot of stuff natural. We are throwing in some sweets. One of the sweets we're using is these Caramel Delight cookies. It's the first year I've tried them, and they're the same ones you get from Girl Scouts. Those have been really good also. One thing we're using as somewhat of a filler, obviously we got some more sweets here. We got some, some of these gummy type deals. Those we just like to throw a little bit in, not a lot. We're trying to keep those bears to these more natural foods. Syrup, that's what we're using kind of more of as a filler, just to, it smells good. I'm not putting a lot of that in there either. Just maybe a scoop per day per bait. The number one thing that's been, I would say that's been some of the best this year. Popcorn's cheap, and we buy this stuff by the tote. This popcorn right here, this is caramel corn. It comes in a big old tote, or you can buy it by the barrel. I like buying it by the tote because we use so much of it. We go through so many baits. Very good deal on that stuff. It's definitely a cheaper bait, and if you don't want to spend a ton of money, I would suggest this is one thing that you're going to want to buy, is a lot of this caramel corn. Another thing we're mixing in is crushed up Sour Patch Kids. We're sprinkling that in each bucket. I kind of, I'll use that around my corn and my sunflowers a little bit. Again, just a little bit of sweet. Here's one thing that I got from a guy that if you can get your hands on it, this stuff is awesome. I normally buy granola. This year I had leftover granola, but I had like 4 barrels of these granola bars. They are a pain to tear apart every day, because we're usually doing 100 a day or so. We're just putting a few in each bucket, but these things right here are awesome. The bears love them. Yeah, then the other thing, like I say, we're not using a ton of granola, but this is apple cinnamon granola that we had some left over from last year. I've been mixing in a little bit of this with each bait. Right now I'm just trying to put out a variety of stuff in each bait each day. It's kind of nice to do that. Other than that, that's what we have to show you for our baits. We are adding in some breads. We got a few things, bread left over from some people that gave it to us, and thank you for that. The other one is we're using Nutter Butters cookie crumbles. We got a few boxes of that.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, some odds and ends cereals that people have dropped off here. We always appreciate, you know, especially cereals or something. It's just an easy filler. It's easy to keep year round in barrels. One thing that's another thing that we're using too is some guy gave us, it's this, it's actually bird jelly, bird food jelly. And I've been just kind of playing around with this on our personal bait out on our property. And that stuff, obviously they're liking that too, because I'm going in there's nothing left. I mean, everything they're eating. So I kind of ran you through what we're using for baits. The stuff we're using to bring these bears in, especially on days we have wind. We've had quite a bit of rain the last few days. I'm using the fryer oil mixed with the Caramel Extreme. I put like 2 ounces per 5 gallons. This stuff is really good. That is one of the main scents you're going to want to get, because I get this stuff up in the trees. It goes a long ways. Especially they come in, they lick up that oil, they get it on their paws, they roll on it, they get it all over their body. When they take off through the woods, it's creating a scent trail for other bears to pretty much connect on that, and they'll find your bait also. Another one we're using, we just tried this out last year, and I like putting this on top of baits. It's an anise powder. Another one we're using a lot on each bait site is I'm using a paintbrush, and I'm putting this bear jelly. All it is, you take the brush, put on there. You can probably see, if you want to see more on how we use it, go to our last video we posted. That stuff in the trees, refreshing about every 3 days. The bears are rubbing on this stuff. They're clawing the trees with it. They're licking it. We're getting photos and video of it.
Trail camera pictures don't lie.
It's pretty cool. The number one thing for when we're putting hunters in a stand, or if you're going out in a stand, bears have a strong sense of smell. And one thing that you can really do, this also attracts bear, but this will actually help cover yourself up. If you're up in a tree, you can spray it around you in the leaves, is the spray scents. Wild cherry has probably been one of our favorites. We've shot quite a few bears just by switching the wild cherry. Another one has been the root beer, which I've mentioned in the last video. One of my favorites. Another one we have tried this year, this is acorn. I am not a firm believer in it yet. I still got to see, when we put hunters in the stand, how they're going to react to this stuff. I've used the jelly donut, works good, the raspberry, but the acorn did smell really good. And the best thing about these spray scents is they're not watered down like some of the scent companies out there. This stuff we've left out in this bait shack in the wintertime, I've come out and it's liquid, so that's telling you it's not watered down. So when it rains out in the woods, this stuff will carry the scent longer than a watered down product. A question that we get asked a lot is, why don't we use meat? A lot of people have offered us freezer burnt meat, fish carcasses, all that stuff. I prefer not to use it. I started out as a young kid, we did use some of that stuff. The number one thing with meat is it can go rancid real quick. Maggots, flies, it stinks. You don't want to be around it. The number one reason is we already have wolf problems in our part of the state. Our baits, we do have wolves on them right now. A lot of times if they get too much sweets, which if I notice there's a bunch of wolves on a bait, I'll put more sweets in there, because what it does is the wolves get a sicker stomach. It just kind of turns them off. They kind of leave your bait sites. If you have meat in there, you are going to deal with a lot of wolf issues. There's going to be a lot of wolves. And if the wolves get a hold of a bait and they start staying on it, a lot of times a lot of the smaller bear like to just venture off, and they kind of stick away from it because they don't have a fighting chance when there's a pack of wolves. If it's 1 or 2 wolves, it's fine, but normally when you start using meats and stuff, the whole pack's coming in. Not always. Some people will argue with me on that, but that's what I've seen in the past. So we just kind of stick to what we are using now and varied up a little bit throughout the season on how much we're putting in, what we're putting in for that day. So, what's your favorite kind of bait?
Anything that's cheap or free. So, but as you can see, we got a lot of buckets to fill up. These bears have been hungry. We gotta go feed them tomorrow. They've been keeping us running. So stay tuned for more, guys. This is gonna be one hell of a season yet, and check out what's been coming in so far.